Good evening and welcome to our third installation in our Fall Back to Business series. I am extremely happy to have you here with us tonight. My name is Shahiwa Jarrett Gellan. I'm the founder and president of the Broward County Black Chamber of Commerce. And welcome, welcome, welcome. You are in for a treat tonight. And I'm not just saying that because my members are presenters tonight, but we have experts here with knowledge and experience that they're going to share with you to make your business better, because that's what we're all about. And I'm happy that we have that expertise in our chamber. I just want to reflect for a moment on the fact that we sent our kids back to school in the fall. And so it was time for them to get back to school. And it was time for us to get back to business. I know we were kind of pulling our hair out, trying to work from home. And so when our kids went back to school to focus on getting better academically, we were then able to kind of refocus our attention on making sure our businesses were on track. And in this series, we started out with some legal basics in our first installation. In our second installation, we talked about PEOs and some insurance. And today, we're going to tackle a few topics all surrounding how you protect your business. And there may be some topics in there that you, as a small business owner, might not be thinking about, but trust me, you should be thinking about. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our two panelists here today. First up, I'm going to introduce Troy Barrow. Troy started his career in the insurance and financial advisory sector with New York Life, where he not only excelled with a notable sales record as a council qualifier, he has also been privileged to receive some of the best training and professional development mentoring in the industry. He founded Arlington Insurance Planning Services as an independent agency, providing access to a variety of well-positioned companies, and continues to successfully serve families and businesses. He is a member of the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors and has been accredited with Life Underwriting Training Council Fellow designation by the American College and NAIFA. He is also a member of the National African American Insurance Association and NABA in New York and South Florida chapters. So we're going to welcome Troy to the program. Hi, Troy. How are you?
Hello, good evening, Shahiwa. How are you doing?
Great, great. I'm
It's a
happy to have
pleasure.
you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank you again for the opportunity to present to our community and our other members this evening. Um, like you said, it's a great opportunity now to think about how do we continue our businesses after we had the last 2 years showing us that we are not Superman and Superwoman, right?
Right, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but we do want to have super businesses that can maintain and push forward and thrive.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what tonight is all about. And we have our second panelist today, Kia Lee Bussey, founder and principal consultant of Bussey Consulting. Now, Kia is a certified human resource professional with over 20 years of professional human resources, management, and operations experience. Kia Lee has a master's in human resource management from Florida International University. She also maintains the Senior Professional in Human Resources designation, Global Professional in Human Resources, and SHRM credentials. Without further ado, we're going to welcome to the program Kia Lee Bussey. How are you?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk with our members tonight, Jahiwa. As Troy was saying, we are back to business and certainly want to make sure that we do all we can to consider our HR options.
I love this. And I wanted both of you to kind of round out the third installment, although you're talking about two very different topics, but nonetheless, they're extremely important to our small business owners. So I think without further ado, we're going to go into it. And up first is Kia Lee, and she's going to talk about HR considerations. So Troy, we're going to welcome you back in a little while to talk about some very
Sure.
specific things that small business owners should be doing. So don't miss it. Make sure you stay tuned for Troy. We'll welcome you back in a moment. All right, Kia. So I'm excited to hear what you have to talk about with regard to HR considerations. And I'm excited to have you enlighten us, because as small business owners, sometimes we don't know when we're making mistakes. And as many people say, we don't know what we don't know.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away.
All right, that's nice. Let's go to our next slide. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about HR considerations for small businesses. I've identified 5 high priorities that I think small businesses should focus on. This is compliance and establishing systems, workforce planning, administration, recruiting and talent acquisition, training and development. So we're going to spend some time in these areas tonight. Next slide. So when you think about compliance and establishing systems, you want to think about, your HR functions, your structure, right? And so your HR folks are going to be providing the structure and the guidelines for your business around the employer-employee relationship. There are 3 key areas that we should focus on in this section. So that would include your organizational chart, which is really what you use. This is your virtual representation of your business structure. It defines a reporting structure for your company, and it identifies for your employees who those subject matter experts are. Then we're going to talk about employee handbooks a little bit. Employee handbooks are really designed to focus on providing your employees with basic benefit information, expectations, and acceptable and unacceptable behavior for the business. And then we talk policy and procedure manuals, which really are focused on more for the employer or the supervisor or manager. These are really designed to be comprehensive guides that are detailed, specific SOPs on how things should be done in the business. What I like to remind small businesses here in this section is that every business needs these tools. Even though you have a small business, you might think, hey, there are only 3 or 4 or 5 or 50 people working in my organization. Do we really need organizational charts? Should I have employee handbooks? Do I need a policy and procedure manual? I'll tell you yes to all. As I mentioned, the handbook is something that's going to set the tone for what the culture of your business is, how you expect your employees to be engaged, what is appropriate behavior, what is inappropriate behavior, some basics around benefits. Those policy and procedure manuals, as I said a moment ago, are really going to define the standard operating procedures for your business. They're meant to be really used by your supervisors and your managers to help guide processes through your organization. They're typically step-by-step instructions for how things should be done. And then organizational charts, I can't say enough about. This is really how you define for your employees, your employee base, how our organization is structured. What is the reporting structure? Who are the leaders? Who are the designated subject matter experts? All critical when you think about who's managing things within your organization with regard to your people. Next slide. So one of the questions that people ask often is, what's the difference between an employee handbook and a policy and procedure manual? In some organizations, they're one tool. You can have a very robust, comprehensive guide that includes your employee handbook. So all of those behaviors, benefits, options, and ways in which you want your employees to engage, how the employer-employee relationship will work. And you can also have included in that your policy manual. You can list for your employees how they are supposed to be doing things in the office. What are the business practices that you have? What time do they come in? What time do they go out? What do you do for inclement weather? All of those types of things can be listed. Or you can have 2 separate tools. The biggest difference in having them separate is an employee handbook is really about the employer-employee relationship. It's designed and written with the employee in mind, where a policy and procedure manual is really about how do we operate within this business, what are our SOPs, and it's really written from the viewpoint of the manager or the supervisor guiding those employees through their work. Next slide. So when you think about workforce planning, this is really the organization's opportunity to have HR strategy and business goals aligned. This is where you really identify the gaps between the workforce you have today and what you need for the future. So when you think about this, you want to think about your revenue models for your business. What are we forecasting with regard to how many employees we'll need? How much are we going to be producing? How much are we going to be required from a customer service standpoint? Do we need more people in our organization? You want to focus on objectives and key results. You also want to think about future staffing. And so when I think future staffing, you want to be thinking really how many people do I have in my organization today? How many people do I need tomorrow? Right? And then you want to think, okay, if we forecasted that we're going to grow by, $500,000, what does that look like from an employee standpoint? Right? And when you think succession planning, you want to think, okay, I currently have 5 employees in my employ, or I have 10 employees in my employ. I know our company or organization is going to grow by X percentage. what of those groups of people are identified or earmarked to be supervisors or managers of the staff that's coming in or the folks that'll be there. So when you think workforce planning, you want to be thinking right person, right time, right place, right cost, and right people. So that's what you want to think about when you think workforce planning. This is something that is key and pivotal to small businesses because oftentimes workforce planning is left to the back, right? This is not an area where you spend a lot of time. You typically think I hire when I need staff, and as opposed to really planning it out and aligning that employment strategy with your actual business strategy. How are we growing? How are we forecasted to grow? What are our revenue models? What are some of those key performance indicators that we have as a business? Who's the staff that we currently have in place? Who can be developed to move on to a supervisory role? How do we succession plan? If you're using interns, when are my interns going to be available either for full-time work or rotating out? If you're bringing in temporary labor or part-timers, when will I have enough revenue where I need to have those folks as full-time or I need to hire new positions? So this is really what you want to think about when you focus on workforce planning. Next slide. So administration is something that, a lot of small businesses leave to the wayside, truly. They think of it as something that is not the fun part of the work. I will tell you that oftentimes small businesses either have the primary or principal responsible for their HR function, or they've designated it or piecemealed it out to others in the organization. And so administration really falls to the wayside because no one wants to take that on. But it's critical for businesses, and this is one of the areas that can most frequently undo the business. And so when you are working in a small business, you want to make sure that you have identified job descriptions. You need them for a number of reasons. You need job descriptions to help you with recruiting, so you can identify what roles you need, who needs to fill those roles. Remember, I said right person, right time, right place, right cost, right? All of those come in when I know what the job description is. Performance evaluations is another area where business often are not focused. And this is typical, because it's something that you kind of have a small group or you're running a small business and, everyone is doing a particular role or function. And as long as they get their things done, you really don't sit down to go and evaluate how they did overall. But I can tell you as an HR person, one of the areas where businesses can reap the biggest benefit is in performance evaluations. One, they help you identify who your key performers or top performers are so you can reward them appropriately. Two, they help you identify areas of opportunity for your staff. You may be having a person who's in your employ who's doing an okay job but could be doing better. Performance evaluations help you do that. And also, performance evaluations don't have to be a long, drawn out process. They can be something as simple as a quarterly meet or a monthly meet with an individual to say, hey, these are our targeted goals and objectives that we had planned for this review period or this evaluation period. Here's where you did great. Here's some areas of opportunity. Maybe here's some places where we need to do some course correction. So performance evaluations are key to the employee relationship. They help ensure that your employees know where they're going, where they are, and what the future holds. The next area, which is sometimes left to the wayside, is compensation management. And I think the reason that goes to the wayside is because you bring your folks in, you're paying them, you feel you're paying them fairly, and so you don't focus a lot on compensation management. But in this economy, compensation manager is key. It's a way to retain your people, it's a way to reward your people, and it's certainly a way to engage your folks when you want to say, hey, what can we do differently? What can we do better from a salary standpoint? Employees are focused on compensation. They are employees who will walk away from a job for $1 more an hour or a few $1,000s more. If you manage the compensation, you go out and do benchmark studies to make sure that your organization, based on your industry, is aligned with others in your field, then you can make sure you're compensating your employees fairly. That includes base pay, so that's hourly or salary pay, any bonuses that you might be considering, as well as any other performance rewards. Next slide. So, not to be left unattended is your talent management solutions or your talent management process. And so I put this slide together and I put on the side of it the Great Resignation. A lot of small businesses are being impacted by the Great Resignation. And some of the things that are driving that is the fact that they have not done a really good job when it comes to employer brand. And so I don't want employer brand to be confused with how you're seen by other businesses in your market. Right? Employer brand is really more about what your employees say or what your employees perceive about you as an employer, right? So you want to make sure that you have a strong employer brand so that when you do go to market to recruit employees or to build your talent, you are able to stand on your employee brand. So there are companies that are known, as people first organizations. These are companies that put their people before profits, ideally. And they found that when they do that, their employees take care of their customers, and their customers in turn take care of the business. That's a strong employer brand. You can go to market with that any day and be able to recruit and retain top talent. You also want to be focused on your recruiting strategy. So have I identified the jobs that we need to fill? Have I forecasted forward what our open headcount might be, right? And so I want to make sure that I go to market with a strong brand and I have a recruiting strategy in place. The next thing you want to think about is hiring. And so, hiring is really about bringing the person aboard, right? So this is the process of bringing them aboard. I've gone out, I've got a strong employer brand, I've gone to market with a great recruiting strategy, and now I'm actually hiring people, filling the roles. The next thing you want to be focused on when you think your recruiting and talent management acquisition strategies is your onboarding. So a lot of small businesses don't either focus on onboarding or haven't really created an onboard strategy. And so onboarding is the process of your employees getting to know or understanding the culture of your organization. And so this is something that's often not a focus. And this is an area where you can certainly build your employer brand by bringing your employees on board, exposing them to your company culture, making sure they understand your mission, your vision, your values as an organization. And so onboarding is something not to be dismissed. It's something that should be a priority in your talent acquisition strategy. The next thing is your retention. So your ability to keep the talent that you have. So your organization doesn't fall to the great resignation. And though that means that you have to be, focused on training your employees, providing them with opportunities for growth and development, giving performance feedback so they understand where they fall in the organization, if they want to move positions, transfer, or want promotions. It also helps you to focus on, compensation strategy. How do I retain my employees? Well, I go out to market, I benchmark the jobs, I make sure that I'm paying fairly or competitively in the market, and it helps me to retain my employees. And then the last piece of your talent acquisition strategy is offboarding. And so a lot of companies don't really think a lot about offboarding either. And so I would tell you in your small business, offboarding is really when you have an employee that either terminates, resigns, or retires. And so this is your opportunity for that offboarding period to gain from your employees information around why they're leaving your organization if they're resigning. Or to find out, what could you have done differently? What could you have done better to retain them if they are resigning the position? It's also the opportunity for you to collect all of your equipment from the employee. In addition to doing that exit interview, I'm going to collect all the equipment. I'm going to set a process in place to disconnect all of their access for those that are virtually associated. I'm going to collect key cards and badges and parking access and things of those nature. So offboarding is something not to be left to the end, but certainly something when you have an employee that's resigning, going to be terminated, or retiring, to make sure you put in place. Next slide. So a lot of times I will have folks ask, what's the difference between recruitment and talent acquisition? So recruitment is really about just filling the roles. Talent acquisition is much more strategic. It's where you focus as an organization on your future growth and development of your business, and you align the strategies. If you know that you're going to be hiring a sales force from a talent acquisition standpoint, and then you recognize, okay, I need a leader for my sales force, right? So I want to make sure that I'm hiring specifically or, engaging specifically for someone who has those skills as a leader in the sales area, as opposed to just hiring or recruiting sales talent. Right. And so those are some of the key differences between recruitment and talent acquisition. One is much more strategic, which is the talent acquisition piece, where recruitment is just much more just a hiring process. Right. I'm just hiring folks to fill roles in my organization as opposed to really sit down and strategically deciding what positions need to be filled, what level of talent needs to be in those positions, and how do I go to market for that talent. Next slide. So this slide, training and development, is an area where often small businesses fall short. And sometimes it's a resource issue, and then other times it's just a matter of not being a focus. So this is certainly an area where HR can support you and take the lead. So their training is really about role-based skills. So I've hired someone to come in and be a front desk person, or I've hired someone as a customer service person. So this is the role they're playing. I'm going to train or build their skills in that area. I'm going to provide customer service training. I'm going to provide front office training. I'm going to provide any other job specific training is really role based or training, right? Where career development is much more focused on the future. What do I need to do to establish a development plan for this individual beyond the scope of work that they currently do for the business? And so I'll tell you that one of the ways that organizations retain their top talent is by providing training and development on a regular basis, having a training plan, creating a career development path for your employees. These are some of the key things that you can do as a small business to ensure that your organization doesn't fall suit to the great resignation and instead is able to retain the top talent that you've gone out and recruited. Next slide. Questions. Any questions around the must-haves for small businesses when it comes to HR? Shahiwa, do we have any questions?
No, we don't have any questions right now, Kia.
All right, fantastic.
Do you have any other slides you would like to share?
Nope, you can just roll to the next slide.
Okay. Well, I wanted to know, Kia, just so
Absolutely.
we kind of make the transition. So the topic is, and obviously, you've been in HR for a very long time, so you know this answer, is protecting our business. So how do these topics relate to protecting our business when you make sure you have all of the things that you laid out in your previous slide? And why are some of these things key? You can give a couple examples. So key that small business owners have them, because obviously they can prevent things from going very, very wrong.
I mean, I'll just start from the top. So when you think about, having an employee handbook or a policy manual, like I said, this really gives the employee the opportunity, and how it connects to, protecting your small business. It really defines what the employer-employee engagement is going to be.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times the employer-employee engagement is all about the psychological contract, right? You hire me to do a job for you, you pay me to do that job, and that's the end of it. But you really have to have parameters around that to protect your small business, right? So you want an employee handbook that defines for your employees what are the rules of engagement, what are the expectations around the role, the engagement with the organization. Goes right to job description. Why do I need a job description? Because it defines what the expectations are for that payment. Right? In order for me to pay you, these are the things I'm expecting you to do for this business. And so when the employee doesn't do that, you're able to document it in a performance evaluation and say, hey, these are some areas of opportunity, growth, development for you, Mr. or Mrs. Employee. And this is how we can help you in that area. And by the same token, when you have an employee that's doing phenomenal things for the business, you're able to justify the rewards. So if you have one employee that's not performing and another employee that is performing, and this becomes an area of contention, you're able to go right to your documents, your source, and say, hey, I can show where this employee has performed over and above the expectations for the role. Hence the reason they got that bonus, or the reason they earned that reward, or got that promotion, etc. So these things are all interlinked, and they help to protect the business. Organizational charts. A lot of times you'll have folks come in, and especially when you have a small business, and you as the owner are running the business. And so you may not have time to direct people in every area they should go, especially with your new hires. So an organizational chart tells them, this is the structure of our business. These are the reporting structures for within our business. This is where you fall on the org chart. This is how you serve or help or guide our business. And these are the people that you should go to when you're looking for subject matter expertise in a particular area. So that's why you want to do your org charts. And onboarding is something that, like I said, a lot of companies don't focus on, but it's critical. It is really when you sit down with that new hire and you engage them and let them know, this is what our business is about, right? This is the culture of our organization. These are the expectations. Here are your tools and resources, whether that's your equipment or your key cards or your handbook or your policy and procedure manual or the job description that you're going to go over with them thoroughly at that point. So onboarding is critical. And, and then I would take you to the training and the development. You went out, you did the work, you had a strong employer brand, you brought the employee on, right? They're in your employ. So now how do I keep them? Well, employees, number one thing that they look for in a business beyond compensation is that they are doing meaningful work, right? And that meaningful work is not stagnant. There's
Right.
opportunities for growth and development for the employee. So you want to make sure that you're taking the time to not only train them for the work that you want them to do, but to develop them for the future that you plan for them and your business. And so that's how you retain your top talent, by giving them a career opportunity, giving them development opportunities, providing a plan for how they can grow and develop with your business, ideally.
Very nice. Very nice. I like that correlation. So, all right.
Well, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to the chamber tonight. I've included my contact information. I also will provide any members that are interested with a guide for how to onboard your employees and some tips and tricks around putting together a handbook and a policy and procedure manual, and
Oh,
even a template for job descriptions.
oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Kia. This was very informative. I especially liked the part where you spoke about the brand of the company and how important it is to have all these things in place, because that goes back to the brand. I think oftentimes we think of, oh, the brand, it's the logo, it's this, is that.
No,
But no, it's that reputation. How are you handling yourself with regard to your employees and of course your customers? But a lot of times people focus on the customer and not the employee part of the brand. So,
I
wow.
will tell you that employee brand is big, especially now when you think about the great resignation, because a lot of times when employees leave a job, they're
Mhm.
asking others about the job they want to go to, right?
Sure.
And so they're saying, hey, you work there. What can you tell me about that organization?
Sure.
That's the employer brand, not your marketing
Yeah,
campaign, not how you go to market, but it's what people that work for your organization or engage with your employees in your organization say about your business.
true, true. Very, very, I appreciate that, Kia. I hope you all learned a lot. I know I certainly did. And it was very informative. And I'll let you know if we have any questions later. But thank you so much, Kia, for your presentation. And we surely will take you up on those tips and tricks with regard to the employee handbook, as well as the shortcut to the job descriptions. We appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, up next we have Mr. Barrow. We're extremely excited to have you on, Troy. So, if you can give us a little hint about what you're going to be talking about, and I'm going to pull that up for everyone. But I want you to kind of start with how why you got into this area and what you've found, if you found your calling in helping your clients in your particular industry at this time. Did you hear me, Troy?
Good evening, everyone, and for the opportunity to discuss these important topics. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. Go
Hello,
ahead. I can hear
can
you.
you
Go
hear
ahead.
me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. All right. Well, good evening again, everyone. It's certainly a pleasure to be with you, and I'm excited to share some information. How I get this industry? Well, I actually managed hotels and restaurants for many years, and I was working with a group over here. And some of the topics that Kia just talked about kind of burnt me out. So I was looking for a new career, and just at that time, a good friend of my cousin actually passed away suddenly. And
Oh,
he
wow.
left his spouse without much life insurance or any other types of planning. So they were very close to losing their home. The kids were almost pulled from school, having to move and
Mm,
whatnot. And I saw the importance of this. Just at that time, I met a now good friend of mine who recruited me to New York Life. And I obviously had the passion from that recent experience. So
absolutely.
led the life insurance and financial planning industry, and never looked back since. Yeah. So I
Mhm.
enjoyed helping many people, especially in our community. We in at New York Life we had the African American market, which specifically, as it says in the name, we targeted and looked to help our communities learn and build and create strong and vibrant financial plans for now, but also for future generations.
Very well. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I know
So
you're eager
then
to
also, as
get
you had
into.
mentioned before,
Go ahead.
Pardon?
I don't know.
Yeah. So as you mentioned before, many of our businesses in our community are underplanned in many areas of concern. And there are some businesses who could still be going and could be successful, but like Kia was saying, you're doing everything, your head is down, and some things fall to the wayside. Unfortunately, there are very important things that do that. And hopefully tonight's session, the insightful information Kia shared and the information coming is helpful to our members of the community and those who are watching.
I'm sure it will be from
So
because
as you can see, our topic for this evening, oh,
no, I was just saying
yes,
I'm
so
sure
our
it will
topic for
be.
this evening is planning for the business owner. I don't know if you can hear me, but I think I lost Shahiwa. But our topic for this evening is planning for the business owner. And our agenda this evening, we're going to touch on some topics of importance. So buy-sell arrangements, key person insurance planning, the tax consequences of such planning, life insurance and disability insurance as tools to get you where you need to go, health insurance, retirement planning for the business owner, and protecting your legacy. And last, if we have enough time, we'll talk a little bit about us at Arlington Insurance Planning Services, LLC. Next slide, please. So as promised, we're going to start with the buy-sell agreement. So what is a buy-sell agreement? So it's an efficient means of ensuring a smooth transition of ownership after potentially disruptive event. So that could be the retirement of a business owner or death or disability. Now, this legally binding contract, what it does is set predetermined terms of price and how the business shares would be transferred at the death of one or more owners. Okay, so usually it would be where the heirs of that deceased owner would want to sell those shares back to the business so that they can then recapture the value of those shares in cash amount to help their family continue their standard of living. Now, there are two types of buy-sell arrangements. There's an entity-owned agreement, and that, as it says, is typically owned by the business, where the business owns the plans that are on the owners of the business. And then there's a cross-purchase agreement, which can get confusing because each member or owner or partner has to own a plan on the other owners. So let's say, for example, we have three owners, Mary, John, and Malcolm. Mary would have to have a plan for cross purchase, by the way. Mary would have to have an insurance, let's use life insurance in this example. She would have to have a policy on John and Malcolm. Then Malcolm would have to have a policy on John and Mary, and so on and so forth. And you can see that this can get very confusing very easily. As well, we're talking about life insurance in this example, so you can see that that can also be very expensive. Not to mention the disparities in age, for example, whereas John could be 64 and Mary's 44. So you can see that the cost for such plans would be very different for each of those persons. So in our experience, most people prefer the entity-owned plan. It simplifies things and it makes it easier for the business owners to carry on with the planning that they need. Okay. Next slide, please. So what we have here is an illustration of some types of these plans. So what we have on top is a entity-owned agreement. So the corporation partnership LLC would own the plan, and you have two owners in this example, and the corporation owns the plans on each owner. And if any of those owners pass on, for example, again, life insurance, the company would take the death benefit and then use that to buy out the shares from the deceased owner's estate or family. Of course, we have a cross-purchase plan, which we just discussed as well underneath. We only have two examples here, which is owner one and owner two. But as discussed, if there's 3, 4, 5 owners, it can get very confusing. So each owner would own a plan on the other. So owner one would own a life insurance policy in this example on owner two, and vice versa. You might ask yourself, well, let's look at partnerships. Why would I need this? Well, you can imagine they have three owners and they have distinct plans for the future and they've been working together for a long time. But let's say Mary passed on. What's to say that Mary's husband, Joseph, has the same intentions as the other two previous owners as well, or the surviving owners. What's to say that he's going to participate or add value to the business? He might not even be skilled in the area which the business provides service. So let's say they're carrying on business again, and Joseph just shows up at the end of the month saying, "Where's my money?" Well, you would imagine the other two owners might not be too keen on that situation. So having a plan in place that they have the money and the resources to buy the shares from Joseph, Joseph has the money he needs to carry on his standard of living, and both parties can carry on in the best way possible. Next slide, please. Next, we're going to talk about key person insurance. And Kia talked about a few things here, and this is when you have people who are very important and integral to your business and your business's success. Making sure that you have your business protected in case they're no longer there is very important. So when a business owner or another key employee is responsible for most of the business sales, dies, or becomes disabled, many potential problems could occur. So your surviving owners need to retain control of the business without interference from the deceased owner's heirs. Again, we just talked about an example where the heirs might not even participate in the business, but they may show up at the end of the month for a check. So they want to enact a prompt transfer of the deceased owner's interest at a fair price and preserve the loyalty, support of employees, customers, and creditors during and after the transition of the business. You can imagine that this is very important because creditors, for example, your business is going well, and that key person, they know they're responsible for most of the sales and the profitability of your business. If that key person is no longer there, your creditors who may be helping you meet payroll at the end of the month and so on, and to help you get through till your accounts payable comes in, they may have less confidence in your ability to pay them back. So knowing that there's a plan in place can give them more confidence, as well as the employees who is your second family, and letting them know that there's resources in place to help keep the business going forward and helping them and everyone else put food on their tables. So this type of planning is very important. But most of us are the key persons to our business, and making sure that we, especially if we have employees, making sure there's a plan in place because your employees are your business as well. Next slide, please. So what happens if the key person is an owner? Well, we talked about the buy-sell agreement before, and that's very similar. So again, they'd want to make sure that the heirs would want to make sure the ongoing financial security is a reality after the loss of their deceased owner's salaries. So for instance, they were accustomed of a certain lifestyle. The deceased owner was bringing home a certain amount of income. I'm sure that they'd be very concerned, amongst other things going on, that they can continue their standard of living. I mentioned about the same reason I got into the industry, where sometimes without proper planning, people have to move and sell their home and go into different and uncomfortable situations without proper planning. Of course, the owners want the retention of the business interest, and they want a timely sale at an attractive price. What we should have mentioned before in the buy-sell agreements, that price is set in an agreement. It's a contract. So having a checkup on your business valuation every now and again, the hint, is very, very much recommended. So you want a prompt settlement of the deceased owner's estate, including proper valuation, again mentioned, of the business interests in cases, especially when their heirs are planning to sell. And you can move on to the next slide, please. So in this example, on the left, you have how key person insurance works during the lifetime of the key person who's going to be insured. The and the key person beneficiary of the plan. If this is a permanent life insurance policy in this example, the business would also be the owner of the cash value. Cash value is just a part of value in a life insurance policy that is accessible while you are alive. And we're going to talk about that in a bit in the future. Then we're going to look on the right at how key person insurance works at the death of the employee. So if that key person passes on, the insurance company would then pay out the death benefit to the business. The business can then use that cash to pay the bills, again, making the creditors have confidence. They can make sure that the employees can continue to get paid and things of that nature. So in a disability sense, you can have something called overhead insurance, where again, as it says, all the business expenses that would typically be paid, like rent, again, salaries and whatnot, are also paid, and there's confidence maintained across the board with customers, employees, and creditors. You can move to the next slide. Thank you. So as promised, we're going to talk about some of the tax consequences. So just be aware that premiums paid for life insurance to fund the buy-sell agreement are not tax deductible. However, the death proceeds are generally excluded from federal income tax when the notice and consent requirements have been met. So that just basically means that if you're going to insure a key employee, for example, you must make them aware that they are being insured, how much they're being insured for, and the terms of the agreement. This must be done prior to them being insured. And if those requirements are met, then you can enjoy the tax proceeds, should I say, the income tax-free proceeds from the life insurance. So the agreement can base the price on a professional appraisal or on a formula that considers the company's earnings along with the earning potential. So how likely is the company going to be more successful, basically? The book value of the company's assets. So whether it's real estate, vans, tracks, whatever it could be, what's the value of those assets? The general financial condition of the business, okay? Any prior sales of a business interest or similar business in the area, the will, and the outlook of the industry that you're in. Does it have a long shelf life, so to speak? These are all things that must be considered. We recommend speaking good accountant or CPA on your team, as well as a legal professional to help you in these areas, as well as obviously an insurance and financial professional. Next slide, please. Let's discuss insurance planning. Insurance to use for your planning could be a valuable resource for your balance sheet as well. So, but in general, when life insurance is part of a sound financial plan, it can strengthen other financial solutions and provide benefits throughout your life. So in short, protect the ones you love, your family at home and your small business family. Your employees are your second family in short, and they are very important, and as the business is meant to, and you are as well. Okay, so we have two types of insurance in general. We have term life insurance, and then we have permanent life insurance. Term life insurance, most people might be familiar with. So those of us who were either W-2 or maybe you're W-2 and still doing a side hustle, as you would call it. Term insurance is the type of insurance that you would typically get group term while you're on the job. That would typically be provided through the employer, and you have very inexpensive premiums. It's also something you can get privately. So most people would have that type of insurance to protect their mortgage, for example, in case something happens to them, there's a lump sum provided for their family to take care of business. So term insurance generally to most people on the surface looks and is cheaper to obtain than permanent insurance. Permanent insurance is a type of insurance that has living benefits as well. And as it says in the name, permanent. Term insurance, you have level premiums for a period of time, a term. And permanent insurance, you have level premiums to the life of the policy as long as the premiums are paid. Again, with permanent insurance, you have something called cash value. And this is something that's much appreciated by those who actually have or look into this type of planning. You have a tax deferred vehicle that can accumulate capital inside of your policy while you're alive, and it will give you access to that capital through policy loans or dividend surrenders if you so wish. This access during your life is also available to you income tax free. And this is one of the key areas that most people appreciate as a living benefit. There's several other benefits you can get based on your health and so on that are also valuable resources to your financial plan. And we can speak about this. Anytime after the presentation, and you can reach out to me on the slide at the end. And please let us know if you have any questions. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so disability insurance planning, very, very important. Our paychecks for many of us it's the most important thing for our household financially. If that paycheck stops, many households, as we've found during the last couple of years, again, unfortunately, it's a very, very dire situation. But if that paycheck happens to stop due to disability, there is a way for you to make sure that you can continue for a period of time, making sure that your bills are paid and your family can have peace of mind. So disability insurance can make up for lost wages should an accident, sickness, or injuries keep you from working. Your income is one of the most important assets that I just discussed, and we often consider what would happen if our income suddenly stopped. So according to the US Census Bureau, nearly 1 in 5 Americans are classified as disabled. So it's a high chance that many people could become disabled, higher than death at this point. And disability can occur at any time, making it crucial to have a plan in place to cover lost income. And if we go back to the buy-sell agreement, a disability buyout plan is very, very important for many small businesses. It's something that many of us don't, especially in partnerships, that it's seldom under or is overlooked and not taken as part of your planning. However, if you should become disabled, God forbid, totally disabled, what should happen to the business? Does the business have the money to pay you out? Well, the disability buy-sell agreement would allow the business to buy you out and then to continue with the partnership or the business plan, seeing and adding value by getting another person, maybe adding the resources to hire another person to take over where you left off. Okay, next slide, please. So let's talk a bit about group health benefits. We're not going to touch too long on this, but this was covered before in one of the other great programs offered by the chapter. But offering group life insurance in Florida as a small business owner, you can have significant benefits. Well, first of all, retaining, as Kia was talking about, retaining and hiring key employees. This benefit is appreciated more so than even raises and higher salaries for many employees because of the cost-saving benefits, especially when there's an employer contribution to the plan. Okay, there's also tax benefits, as we mentioned, and credits are meant to help you afford the cost of owning a small business in Florida. So please consult your tax professional and learn more about your specific situation. Next slide, please. So in closing on health insurance, no one plans to get sick or hurt, but most people need medical care at some point. And a healthy workforce enables productivity. I actually just have a client who, this is actually out of state in New Jersey, who has a large hospitality franchise and has several locations, and they're actually now trying to get a better health insurance plan in place because, as you may be aware, it's very hard to keep employees, especially in hospitality in this time. So they're using this as a tool to keep their employees happy and coming to work. It's really a valuable resource. Obviously, as I said, a healthy workforce enables productivity. Next slide, please. So let's talk a bit about retirement planning for the business owner, especially for those of us who are maybe just 3, 4, 5 years into the business. You may think this is a way out and I shouldn't be worrying my head with this at this time. But starting from day one, you should be looking at how are you going to exit from your business. It may not always be the retirement in the future. It could be a forced retirement. Again, we talked about disability and other things that could happen. So number one, you want to start looking at how do I create a succession plan? For those of you who have been in business for a long time and are closer to retirement, making sure that your key employees, again, are aware of your plans. That key employee might be the person who may want to buy you out. Okay, having this discussion and making sure they're aware of the plans and they're comfortable and on board. Because if you don't have this discussion, sometimes you can try to sell the business, but that same key employee who knows they're key and very important to the business might not cooperate. They might want to leave, go to even a competitor. So a realistic succession plan with a solid exit strategy is essential, especially if you're counting on income from the business after you retire. And that ties into the key employee employee insurance as well. That can tie into a type of planning that can help you put money aside for the future. And you must calculate how much income you'll need in retirement. So as an example, if you think that you want $100,000 of income for the next 20 years in retirement, let's consider a 5% interest rate. You need about $2 million funded to give you this, and funded to give you that income of $100,000 a year for the next 20 years. Can your business afford that without a previous plan in place? Making sure that you have proactive planning is very, very crucial. And number three, start saving. You can't rely on your business as a retirement plan since, as I said, you don't know what the future holds. So be sure to have some type of retirement plan and retirement savings vehicle in place. Could be a personally owned IRA or some of the topics that we're going to discuss coming up in the next few slides. We're not going to discuss all 7 ways, but feel welcome to contact me at the end. I'm more than happy to send you the rest of this information, as well as any other information that could be helpful to you and your business. We are looking forward to being a valuable resource. So retirement planning for the business owner continued here. Let's talk about what's called qualified plan and then versus a non-qualified plan. Well, a qualified plan is a plan where you can tax deferred contributions from your employee or an employer. So basically, any contributions from the employer is deductible. Okay, and all employees who meet the eligibility requirements of a qualified plan must be allowed to participate in it, and benefits must be proportionally equal for all plan participants. So this is based on a law called Erisa Law, right, which manages basically all types of qualified retirement plans. So what that means is that if you as the employer are allocating 15% towards your qualified plan, you must then allocate 15% of your employee salaries to that same plan. You cannot just put 15% and 5% to others and so on. So you must do equal shares there. Non-qualified plans are on the other side of that. They are not subject to those ERISA laws. And basically, you can then you can put together more flexible plans. You can even choose which employees you're going to offer these plans to, and the terms of those plans can also be flexible. So in many cases, businesses such as law firms, doctors' offices, and so on, those are the types of clients that we have who appreciate these non-qualified benefit plans, especially businesses with highly compensated employees that have maxed out, let's say, on their 401ks and whatnot. This is a great opportunity to keep them happy and keep their business going. Again, keeping a key employee happy is keeping your business going and going well. Next slide, please. So let's look at some of the types of qualified retirement plans. We have a SEP IRA or a simplified employee pension plan. Okay, and then we have a simple IRA, a savings incentive match plan for employees. So a SEP IRA is something usually used by self-employed individuals, again, partnerships and highly compensated with few owners at most, all right? And they would use these types of plans based on the contribution limits. You can put more money than a traditionally owned IRA, for example, into these plans. And they're also like the tax benefits. Now, at the back end, when you do take a distribution from those plans, be aware that you will be paying taxes at that point. Okay. Now, we also have a 401k. I think many of you are familiar with that. This is an employer-sponsored defined contribution plan, pension account. So what that means is it's defined how much money can go into the plan, but how much money you can get out of the 401k depends on how that 401k performs, what investment choices you've made, and what's happening to the market, or for example, at the time when you're ready to take your funds. Okay, so a 401k can be a very good plan for you, but be aware that you should make sure that you look at all of your options, not just the 401k or just the IRA. A solo 401k is very similar to the regular 401k, but it's just designed for solopreneurs, as we call them, or self-employed individuals with no employees or just a spouse, for example. Then we have a Roth 401k. Well, a Roth account is the opposite. So like I said, the 401k, you put in pre-tax dollars and it enjoys tax deferred growth. So there's no taxation on the growth, but you will have to pay taxes on the back end when you're taking money out. Well, a Roth 401k, that would allow you to put after-tax dollars in now. It grows tax deferred, but in the back end, at least 5 years later or after the age of 59 and a half, you can take out tax-free dollars from that account. So having a bit of both could be a good thing to do, especially if we expect taxation to be higher in the future. Having some type of diversification in your planning would be a good choice on your part and a more informed decision. We can go to the next slide, please. So types of non-qualified retirement plans. Well, we have something called deferred compensation plans, and they hint in the name, so it's deferred compensation. Again, typically used by highly compensated individuals, business owners closer to retirement. These are plans where you can, as I said, deferred compensation. So as opposed to given a full bonus, you can put the bonus or the additional amount based on certain parameters. For example, if you have a key employee and you want business growth, you can tie that into, if you meet certain metrics or benchmarks, that key employee can get a deferral into their plan, which is money that they can take advantage of at retirement or whatever date is set up in the plan. This, like the buy-sell agreement, must have a document in place at the time or the plan is initiated, and you often cannot veer from the arrangement provided in the document at the beginning. Then we have executive bonus plans. Well, again, as it says in the name, these are usually placed by large corporations, but also can be done, especially if you have a C corporation designation for your company. Executive bonus plans allow you to bonus your executive or key employees a certain amount of funds. Again, whether they reach benchmarks and whatnot. This type of compensation is not ERISA controlled, so you don't have to offer it to every employee. You can choose which employees you want to give it to based on, again, whatever benchmarks you set in place. And split dollar life insurance plans. So life insurance is typically used for many of these types of non-qualified deferred plans. And life insurance split dollar plan is basically saying that at the death of the individual or the employee, the death benefit would be split between their family, for example, and the business itself. So that's where you have split dollar. All right, and feel welcome to contact me to discuss any of these plans in the back end where we can dive deeper and share more information to explain how these things work. Last, we're going to talk about protecting your legacy. Well, your personal and business affairs are closely intertwined and should be handled simultaneously. All the topics that we talked about before, buy-sell arrangements, key person planning, all these things are tools to protect your legacy, making sure that the business and or your family can continue in the best way possible. So please make sure you consult your legal professional and making sure that they not only are the plans, but the right documentation is in place to make sure that your wants and desires and wishes are met, either whether you're here or not. So a strong estate plan is recommended. Thank you very much. We'll just share a little bit about us before we take any questions. And again, my firm is Arlington Insurance Planning Services, and we specialize in providing strategic financial solutions based on the research expertise we enjoy doing, I should say. Utilizing life insurance and disability is where we specialize. We are known for providing tax efficient solutions. So we always look for ways that the business owners can maximize on the tax efficiency, whether it's tax savings or recouping after tax dollars. Okay, and we operate in Florida, New York, New Jersey, Georgia, and California. We can go to the next slide. So I'll leave you with this. Remember, most people don't plan to fail. They simply fail to plan. So let's get a plan in place and make sure that success has a more chance to be ours. I just have to go through the housekeeping. So the compliance person said I have to tell you this, so please read through it. And we can go on to the next slide. So I have a QR code here, so feel welcome to scan it with your phone. It will take you straight to a contact us page where you can reach out to me directly. And I want to thank you. I want to thank Shahiwa and the Broward Black Business Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to discuss these topics with you. I hope this information has been insightful, and I really do look forward to speaking with any of you who would like to learn more and to implement some of these plans. We are here as a valuable resource. Do we have any questions on any of the topics we discussed?
Wow, that was wonderful. Thank you, Troy. I hope all of you can see why we want to cover these two topics in our last installation. I just want to emphasize before we wrap up and we close, of all the important things you've said here tonight, I really want to focus on that retirement planning piece. I think a lot of times people go into business and they figure somehow the business will just explode, and then I'll be able to retire on a lot of cash, or somehow it'll just exponentially grow, and I'll be able to have a lot of cash. I'll just sell it. And the point is, if you were working
Yeah.
somewhere, you should have some type of 403b or 401k retirement plan. And so you should not skimp on that. If you're the business owner, right, in your own business, you should make sure you have it for
No,
yourself. Yeah. So I love how you covered
yes, I 200% agree because yes, I 200% agree, and especially in the current economic environment, we can expect that with everything going on, it's highly probable that we're going to be in a higher tax environment. So this is one of the key areas where businesses will have deductions and things of that nature, only help them to help either on the business side be more competitive with the environment and can save more and to see more fruits of your labor.
Yeah. Well, once again, I just want to say thank you to both of you. This was wonderful. I know that it was packed with a lot of information. So when we post the video, we'll also post the information so that people can reach out to you both, because I know people have to have questions. This is not something you can sit down in one session and just grasp, right? You need the guidance, and that's why we have these sessions to kind of get, you know, your feet wet, get your mind kind of going and thinking about these important topics, and then saying to yourselves, like, okay, I need to consult a professional so that I make sure I do it right. So I make sure I have everything lined up the way it should be. So I wanted to just say thank you both for participating in our last installation here in our Back to Business series this fall. Any last words of wisdom that you want to share before we close tonight? Kia, did you want to close out and say anything?
No, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to present the material to the chamber this evening. And as you said, I'll share some toolkits over to you for folks to reach out and get started in making sure they're as compliant as they can be in their business.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, be compliant. That keeps you out of trouble, keeps you from paying fines, keeps you from getting sued. So that's what we're talking about here. We're making sure you're considering everything you need to consider with regard to HR, and keeping yourself out of trouble definitely protects your legacy and your business. Any last
Absolutely.
words that you want to share, Troy, before we close up?
Yes, indeed. Sure. I want to thank you again as well, and thank the Chamber for the opportunity, and thank those who logged in this evening. We also will allow you to contact us, and we will look forward to setting up complimentary opportunities for you to meet and have on our web,
Oh goodness, Troy, you're
where
going
we
in
have
and
tools that you can just download on person and vice well. But of course, as I said, it's always open to be a valuable resource.
out. Okay. Thank you both. Have a great night.
You too.
All right. Well, we thank all of you for joining us tonight for our last installation in our program. This was a wonderful journey this fall going through this series. And we wanted to bring you this fall series this time because there are so many topics, as we get busy with running a business, with making sure our clients or customers are satisfied, that we may gloss over. But at the end of the day, you have to refocus on why you did this to begin with, right? You started a business to create a source of income for yourself and to create a legacy for your family. So whether you keep the business in the family or you sell it, etc., you have to have a succession plan. You have to plan for your retirement because you don't want to work into your aging years, right? And while you have your business going, as Kia shared with us tonight, you want to make sure that you're protecting your company, you're protecting that brand, not only from the customer's vantage point, but from an employer standpoint, with regard to what employees and future recruits will think of your company. You have to protect that brand. So having your policies and procedures in place is critical, and having a future plan as to how you will live out your years once you've sold or you've closed your business is critical, and it's key. We're all about protecting your business and having you think about those topics or issues or areas of concern that you sometimes don't think you have the time to think about, but in the end, you must think about. So thank you once again for joining us, and we'll see you in the next session. Have a great evening, and we're signing off from the Broward County Black Chamber of Commerce.